This is the Vaguely Nerdy Podcast, where every week this brother-sister duo gets together to discuss the box office, latest film and TV scoops, along with our latest movie or show review, and what we're getting into next. We are your host,
Cheryl.
And Jay.
All right, Ted. So today, this episode is my turn to ask you a question about, it's horror themed. I couldn't find anything related to the movie we watched. So,
Okay.
is you ready?
Sure.
1996 film Scream.
Okay.
Something in this movie was used, happened. There was a thing in this movie that after the movie came out, the use of it increased triple, 3 times.
People calling the police on a computer?
No.
Oh.
I'll give you one. But you kind of in the right family though. Give it one more shot.
Was caller ID in Scream 1?
It says after the release of the 1996 film Scream, which involved an anonymous killer calling and murdering his victims, caller ID usage tripled in the United States.
I mean, I know that in Scream 2 it starts out where she gets the first phone call and she's got caller ID, and that's how she knows it's a prank caller. But
but the number
that's probably because
showed up, right? Because that's all caller.
Well, that
ID
was in Scream 2, so that's probably because in Scream 1 there was no caller ID in the whole movie.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So that's probably why more people got caller ID. Yeah.
But I was like,
that makes sense.
You just put that together all by yourself.
I was trying to think, like, the only thing that was like strange in Scream 1 that people didn't know you could do was when she called the police on the computer, which people still today watch it for the first time and are like, what?
Ooh.
Is that real technology? But yeah, you could call the police on the computer.
If your Wi-Fi ain't good, that is not good. But yes, Scream helped along the usher of the usage of caller ID.
Oh, good.
So that's
cool.
our trivia for this episode.
All right, let's get into the episode. Welcome, fellow movie buffs. I'm Jay.
I'm Cheryl.
Listen in as we break down movie and TV shows, tell you what's in the plot, and hear if we think you should have watched it when you had the chance.
Dun dun dun. Okay, so we are light on news this week, y'all. Like the SAG strike is still going on, and there's been a little bit of chatter about that, but it's still going on.
Yeah.
So news was a little bit on the light side. So we literally have a bunch of trailers to discuss, and then we're going to get into our movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first trailer that came out, I think this week, was for American Fiction, which is on my anticipated list for the rest of the movies this year.
Okay.
It's directed by Cord Jefferson, who was I think this is his first directorial debut. I think this is his directorial debut, but he was a writer on the Watchmen series.
Very good reviews.
People like that. Master of None.
Great first 2 seasons.
And The Good Place, which you watched.
I did not watch The Good Place, but I do know everything about The Good Place because it's one of those shows where, like, The Office.
Okay.
If you didn't watch it, it's in pop culture so much.
Okay.
Yeah, but also very well received show.
It stars Jeffrey Wright, who we love, Tracee Ellis Ross, Issa Rae, Sterling K. Brown, and then also Erica Alexander is in this, but she's not in the trailer. And everybody, if you don't know who Erica Alexander is, she is Maxine Shaw, attorney at law from Living Single. It's in theaters December 15th, so Christmas-ish kind of movie. But let me give you a synopsis, because this is the first trailer? Second trailer.
This is the first trailer.
Okay, this is the first full trailer. Now, it's been shown in one of the past film festivals. So some people have already seen it, but the wider release is going to be December 15th. American Fiction is about Monk, who was played by Jeffrey Wright. He's a frustrated novelist who's fed up with the establishment that profits off of Black entertainment. So he relies on, the Black entertainment tropes are basically was prevalent in making money in the book space, and he's over it. So to prove a point, he uses a pen name to write an outlandish Black book of his own, and that book propels him basically to notoriety and to be famous. And he's a little bit frustrated because the book that has all the hot messness in it and all of the stereotypes is the one that makes him, I think, most famous, is what it seems like. Yeah. It's definitely a comedy drama, maybe. What do you call a movie that's got like a serious undertone but it's funny?
A dark comedy?
There we go. It's like a dark, it kind of seems like the same along the lines of that Nicolas Cage movie that's coming out where he's in everybody's dreams.
Yeah.
So like it's a comedy, but there's obviously some underlying going on situation.
Yeah, it seems like the lesson throughout the film is going to be about how
Be yourself.
everybody profits off of Black culture.
And that one too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like cheesy tropes and stereotypes and your white folk who don't quite understand Black culture, so they say something real cringy and you're just kind of like, oh, what is this? But it looks funny.
It does look funny. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm interested in seeing it. It wasn't originally on my watch list, but I'm definitely interested in it because of the cast.
Yeah, well, the cast is the biggest draw for even if this movie was about something else and you had the same cast, I'd still be like, sign me up.
Yeah.
Please.
It's a cast of people who know how to play funny.
Yes.
Especially Tracee Ellis Ross, Issa Rae, and Sterling K. Brown. They've all played like comedy roles before. I don't know if Jeffrey Wright's been in a comedy, but he's a really good actor.
Just in general.
Yeah. So I'm very interested in this. And I'm interested in how it's going to end because throughout the trailer, we already know that he writes this book that's extremely Black and ghetto because it says it on the cover. And we already know that makes him famous and successful and rich. So I wonder if that's going to come full circle or I'm very interested to see how
because he's using a pen name. So people don't realize that it's this guy who's writing it, who's written other books. And it looks like whenever he does interviews and stuff, he's doing that FBI informant disguised voice, all in Black situation.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I think it's limited release. I don't know if it's wide release, so don't know if it's coming to a theater near you, but we'll at least probably check it out and see how it goes.
Yeah.
The next trailer that we got this week was Napoleon, which is directed by Ridley Scott, who is known for
Alien, Prometheus, Blade Runner, Gladiator.
This is giving Gladiator for sure.
Yeah, it's absolutely giving.
It's definitely giving Gladiator. Joaquin Phoenix stars as Napoleon. This also has Vanessa Kirby in it. I don't know who else like big names are in this, but these are the main two that you see throughout the trailer.
Yeah, it's mostly led by Joaquin Phoenix and Vanessa Kirby.
It's basically the rise of Napoleon, and I'm assuming also the downfall of Napoleon. And it also seems like it focuses on Joaquin Phoenix and Vanessa Kirby's relationship quite a bit.
Yeah, it seems like I think she's a prostitute and he marries her and makes her queen.
Of course. I mean, that seemed like the thing back then.
Yeah, that's the person she plays. She plays Empress. She plays an Empress character.
I am typically not a fan of war movies. And this is giving me a lot of, I
like war movies. I don't like biopics, but
this is like both together. Because there's definitely a lot of fighting.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a lot of war.
It's not giving me, I didn't mind the fighting in like Lord of the Rings, Battle of Helm's Deep. This is giving more like Helm's Deep 5 times.
Let me rephrase that. I don't like modern war movies. I like sword and shield.
Historical war movies.
Yes, I like historical musket war movies.
Okay.
I don't like
throwback war movies.
Yeah, I don't like Dunkirk or something where it's just a bunch of dudes.
Never watched Dunkirk.
It's just a bunch of dudes in hard hats running around.
Okay. The trailer, I like Joaquin Phoenix. I like Vanessa Kirby. There's a lot. I don't know. We're going to watch it, but I don't know.
The movie looks boring, but
is that the word I'm looking for?
The movie looks,
the quiet part out loud.
The movie looks boring. It looks like one of those award contending movies, but I also felt the same about Oppenheimer when I first saw those trailers, but Oppenheimer, I liked Oppenheimer because it was like watching it was a biopic movie, but it was like watching a documentary. It was like a lot of Oppenheimer was like Drain the Ocean-esque, where they actually talk about the science. This is how you make a bomb. This is politics about discussing that. So hopefully Napoleon actually has more to say than this is who Napoleon was. Maybe we'll get...
And not just a bunch of fighting.
Yeah, maybe we'll get more insight on the politics of what it was like to live during that time period.
Yeah.
I hope it leans into
him
a
as
little
a person,
bit of documentary
and
less biopic.
Okay, I
Yeah.
can see that. I see.
With a little bit of drama.
Okay.
Yeah.
It comes out on November 22nd, which I believe is Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a holiday movie.
Thanksgiving weekend.
It'll probably sound really good. I know that sounds strange, but typically those type of movies is really like the sound effects of like the fighting and the knives going in and the bombs and all that. It'll probably be beautiful gowns.
Absolutely.
I'm going to say beautiful gowns.
Absolutely.
Speaking of old white man, Ferrari is also coming soon. That is also already played at film festivals. This one is Michael Mann directing, who's also going to be doing Heat 2 coming up.
Yep.
Which also might star Adam Driver, who stars as Ferrari in this.
Yeah.
Also Penelope Cruz, Shailene Whitley. Is that how you say her name?
Shailene.
Christmas movie. Oh, it's also going up against Color Purple, but multiple audiences there. Yeah. I don't know how we are going to manage this. Trying to review movies, but we talked about Ferrari before. This is the second trailer, I think. It's based on a biography of Enzo Ferrari, who, if you don't know who Ferrari is, I'm just going to let you Google. It looks much like the very first trailer, but it looks like it's going to focus a lot on his wife and his second wife. Mistress?
Yeah, a lot more on his personal life.
I haven't Googled like who is who because I don't want to spoil, if you can even spoil such a movie, of the plot or backstory of what's going on. But it does seem to focus a lot on the fact that Ferrari almost went broke.
Yeah, it seems like he's already rich in the movie, but the movie's going to follow him trying to maintain his wealth.
Yeah.
One.
Because I believe him and his wife, who I believe is Penelope Cruz in this, built Ferrari together.
Correct.
And looks like they're in some financial straits, so he has to do this race.
And I think their son also died.
Right.
Either his mistress or second wife or
maybe
second girlfriend.
because it seemed real out in the open to be a mistress situation. And yes, we could Google this, but I don't want to be spoiled. I think Napoleon looks more interesting. If you had to pick Napoleon or Ferrari, which one would you pick?
I would pick Napoleon because Napoleon has more going on in it.
But this could be like Oppenheimer too, where it's more
I mean, but the Ferrari is not the atomic bomb.
I mean,
it looks like the most action this is going to have in the movie is the Grand Prix. So it looks like Adam Driver's going to do a good job acting. I really like seeing Penelope Cruz again.
I haven't seen her anything.
Vanilla Sky alumni. I thought it was strange that they play a married couple because I thought she was like much older than Adam Driver. But who cares?
You know that don't matter nowadays. He looks older than what he.
I mean, she doesn't look like she's much older than Adam Driver.
No, yeah. he
But
looks much older. Right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say he looks much older than when he was playing, say, Kylo Ren, for sure.
Yes,
absolutely.
He looks like an old man,
and he's got an accent. Did you notice that?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, he's Italian.
I'm going to believe you. All right. And then the last trailer that we have was Saltburn, which
I was interested in the movie before I saw the trailer.
Don't know if Saltburn's been played at...
Yes.
It has. Okay. So it's already been featured in some
mixed reviews.
Okay. Been featured in some film festivals. It basically sounds like a kid... I don't know if you want to call him a kid, a college student who's like shy, introverted, gets mixed up in and befriends this more extroverted college student, and then he goes to his family's house for maybe the holidays or something, summer vacation maybe, and then it's just a lot of like mystery and
some weird eyes wide shut stuff going on.
It feels like it, although I feel like the trailer at the end said it was a gothic thriller. And I'm like, where?
Yeah, so was Eyes Wide Shut.
But I wouldn't call that a thriller. It's just a regular old
creepy movie. This movie looks creepy.
Said the same thing.
So
creepy movie.
Watching the trailer, they're college students. It stars Barry Keoghan, who was in Banshees of Inisherin, which just was at the Oscars last year. I think Colin Farrell won the Oscar for that.
Oh, I didn't know he was in that.
He was also the Joker at the end of Batman.
For about 3 minutes.
And the after credit scene.
Yep.
Rosamund Pike, who's known for being Rosamund frickin' Pike. If you don't know who she is, she's from Gone Girl. She's also from I Care a Lot.
I need to watch that.
Which is on Netflix, which is really, really, really good.
I need to watch it.
and from Die Another Day, which was her first big screen role.
Oh, okay. I like
with
Rosamund
Pierce
Pike.
Brosnan. It also stars the main character from the Gran Turismo movie. I'm going to try to
is that
pronounce
who
his
that
name.
was?
Yeah, Archie.
Okay.
He plays the lead in the Gran
He has
Turismo
way
movie.
more hair in this movie.
Yeah, he has a lot more.
Like, I wouldn't have picked that up unless you said something.
And it seems like the family, it doesn't seem like they're related.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like they're a family in like name and practice, but they don't actually seem related. It almost seems as if Rosamund Pike kind of collects them all from different places, and together they form their own family.
Yeah, and I can see that because it's there's something going on.
Barry Keoghan is
he's the outsider coming in.
So I guess the movie is just going to be about him being absorbed into that family weirdness.
It's being called a psychological thriller drama. I'm not getting the thriller part, but I'm getting the psychological and the drama.
I get the thriller part because there's obviously something weird going on with everybody at the house.
You think it's some sort of like...
It seems like they're all together by circumstance and by the fact that Rosamund Pike is rich, but it doesn't seem like they all actually like each other or get along.
Now, if there's a supernatural element, that might pique my interest a little more. But if it's just a bunch of rich people acting weird.
That's what Eyes Wide Shut was. And that's what I thought of when I saw this, because there are some very Eyes Wide Shut-esque scenes of like partying and people wearing masks and things happening in a group that you can't really see because it's like a weirdly lit
cut
room.
Off, right.
Yeah, I was interested in it based on the synopsis and some of the stills that came out from filming it, but after I've seen the trailer is 2.5 minutes long and I have zero idea what's going on in this movie.
I thought this trailer was boring.
It definitely
this was my
boring.
boring trailer on the list. I was like, I don't even know if I want to know what happens at the end.
It looks like it would have operated better as a series. It looks like a very well made and well shot movie. Absolutely. But it does look like something that you would more so stream on a weekly basis or binge stream over a weekend.
If you had enough story to kind of draw out, like build up to what's happening, and then you have the reveal and then the after. I could see that.
Yeah. So this is being distributed by Amazon MGM, because Amazon acquired MGM. So it'll be on Amazon soon if you don't go see it in a movie theater. It's being directed by Emerald Fennell, who has been awarded a lot of different... Well, she's got a lot of different awards. I think she has an Academy Award for writing original screenplay. She's a woman, clearly. And she's been nominated for a bunch of Academy Awards after that.
Okay.
She also wrote on The Crown. Okay. And she wrote The Danish Girl, which was controversial, but it was still a well-received movie.
Okay. And it looks like she was a showrunner for Killing Eve, which people loved. I think we are reviewing this. So you'll find out how we think about it anyway. Yeah. Whether I think it was boring or not. That's pretty much the bulk of the news. I think there was one tidbit about Deadpool 3 might be getting delayed. Maybe.
It's not confirmed. It's just saying that it's looking like most likely.
It's looking like it.
So the last I heard was that it's looking like it might get delayed. And
Captain
in its
America
place,
4.
they're going to do Captain America 4. But then right after that, it was said that Captain America 4 may also get delayed.
Which is interesting because Captain America 4 originally was in Deadpool's spot. Like they flip-flopped them.
Yeah, they flip-flopped.
And now, listen, they just need to pay the actors so we can all enjoy our movies. But they're being difficult. So this is not the first movie that will get delayed. Like, major, highly anticipated. Dune's already been delayed. Yeah. This is probably...
I think Deadpool is more anticipated than Dune, though.
You are not lying. But I guess it's like the medium-sized movie. Yeah. That's biggest movie that's gotten delayed. So we'll definitely keep you guys up to date on 1, the strike, and 2, what other movies that we love that are going to get delayed. All right. And now we're going to get into our movie review. We'll take a short break like we always do.
Okay, we are back for our movie review, and this week we watched an Amazon original movie called Totally Killer, which was released on September 28th, 2023 on Amazon Prime, directed by, I'm going to try to pronounce this correctly.
You go ahead.
Nahnatchka Khan.
Looks right to me.
I'm not going to try it again because I might get it worse the second time.
There you
go. This director previously directed a couple episodes of Fresh Off the Boat and Young Rock, which I've never seen either of those, but I think you liked Fresh Off the Boat.
I've seen several episodes of Fresh Off the Boat because it used to come on before the Goldbergs. which I loved.
Ah, okay.
And then I think Young Rock I never watched, and I think it actually got canceled recently, or not renewed. Same difference.
So you have the cast list listed here, which is very funny. So starting off, it stars Kiernan Shipka,
Shipka.
who is the lead actress in the movie. She is basically our Sidney Prescott in the film. You put in reference to her acting role. She put in Mad Men.
Yes.
But I don't think anybody's going to recognize her from Mad Men.
Listen,
people will recognize her as Sabrina.
From what?
From the Netflix series, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Oh.
She played Sabrina in the Sabrina
reboot,
which a lot of people watched.
I had to look up most of these people in this movie. And I was like scrolling. I was like, oh, she's been in this the most. Let me put that here. So you're right.
Well, when you said she's 23 and Mad Men ended in 2015, I was like, there's no way she was old enough for people to know who she was in Mad Men.
She probably played somebody's kid.
Yeah.
Is what it sounds like.
So Kiernan Shipka, who was previously Sabrina. So she had a very successful run on Netflix. I think that show ran for 3 years.
Oh, really?
On Netflix.
Okay.
Olivia Hope, who played Dagger in Marvel's Cloak and Dagger, which was the Hulu show.
You know, it's funny. I didn't realize Cloak and Dagger were people.
Yes.
I didn't know that. I've never seen it. I've seen the poster. I just thought Cloak and Dagger were some sort of like, yin and yang situation.
Cloak and Dagger are Marvel superheroes.
Okay.
Cloak has a magic cloak that lets him transport and transfer other people to different places. Dagger has the ability to form daggers made out of light.
Nope. Learn something new every day. She was on that.
Troy Lee Ann Johnson. It also stars Lachlan Monroe, who's from Peacemaker, Riverdale, and a bunch of other stuff.
Listen, I looked him up. And he has to have a filmography as long as Samuel Jackson.
He's been acting for a very long time, and he's in a lot of
things.
American Pie-esque inappropriate movies.
Yes, and he's been in like one episode of literally, I don't know, maybe 100 shows. It had to be a list of like 75 to 100 things.
He was in Scary Movie.
Of course he was.
He played I can't remember the name of the actual actor, but you remember the first Scary Movie.
Yes.
And you remember I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Correct.
And you remember Sarah Michelle Gellar's character. And her boyfriend.
Yes.
Who gets killed while watching the pageant show.
Yeah.
He plays the parody of Sarah Michelle Gellar's boyfriend in that movie.
Oh, okay. I can see him playing that. But listen, if you look up the cast of this, and you go to Lachlan Monroe, you will be like, oh, I know that guy because he has been in I was like, what am I going to pick that he's been in? Because he's been in 50 billion different things. So the man working.
Yeah.
I'll give him that.
He's been in a bunch of stuff.
The
movie also stars Julie Bowen, who is the mom from Modern Family.
Claire.
Randall Park, who plays Jimmy Woo in the MCU. And was he in Fresh Off the Boat as well?
I believe so, yes.
Yes.
Yep, he was on there too.
So that is the main cast. There are a bunch of different.
I was going to say
this is a big ensemble cast. There are a bunch of different secondary characters.
Once we get into the movie, like describing it, it'll show you why there are so many people. I was like, I'm gonna stop listing people at this point.
Also, I want to shout out Liliana Liberato, I think is her name.
Who was that?
Liliana Liberato is one of the main characters in this movie. And if you don't recognize who she is, she was in, I'm going to do a spoiler for Scream 6.
If you haven't seen
Scream
6,
4,
pause.
3, 2, 1. She was the third Ghostface. She was the daughter.
Oh,
out
you're
of the
right.
three. She was the first, and they thought she was killed in the apartment, but it was
because she was supposed to be the daughter of the
She was a
cop.
slutty roommate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
So this is her.
She looks exactly the same.
She looks exactly the same.
Maybe the same hair
This
color
is her
and
second
everything.
foray into slasher flicks.
Okay.
Has a runtime of 1 hour and 46 minutes.
Perfect timing.
Don't have budget details because this is a streaming movie and they like to keep that information tight. Ratings.
Had to be low though.
Ratings, yeah, because horror movies are extremely cheap.
And this was very much like in somebody's neighborhood.
This was on a set. Absolutely, like on a backlot somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
No cinema score because this did not show in theaters, but it did get a Rotten Tomatoes score of 87% and an audience score of 78%, which is on par with other slasher flicks that it mimics, which would be the Scream franchise, Michael Myers movies,
Halloween, that's
Nightmare on Elm Street. It borrows a lot of elements from a lot of those movies, and it scored on par with those as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, we'll do no spoilers first.
Okay.
And then we'll do spoilers. So this is
it's not
Conjuring.
jump scary.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's not like The Conjuring. It's not like, I wouldn't even say it's kind of like Halloween.
It's not even as scary as Scream.
Correct. I would say that because even the mask that the killer wears is like, it literally looked like it came from Party City.
Yeah. So spoiler-free synopsis would be that in 1980s,
something like 83, 87.
In 1987, there was a serial killer known as the Sweet 16 serial killer who ran around murdering girls. And they were called the Sweet 16 serial killer because, one, they murdered teenagers. Two, the MO was to stab them 16 times.
Correct.
And Julie Bowen, who was one of the girls in the friend group of the other victims who were murdered, she is the sole survivor. So Julie Bowen is the Sidney Prescott of her friend group.
Yes.
And 35 years later, she has her own husband and daughter and family. And she kind of just lives with the paranoia of one day being killed again by a serial killer.
Right.
And her daughter decides to travel back in time.
Not on purpose, though.
Not on purpose.
Certain things happen to where the daughter is transported in the time machine.
Yeah.
Back to the original year that the killings happened. And she has to basically solve the mystery or else she's going to be stuck in 1987.
Yeah. So the plan was to stop the killer before the killings so that it would change the future.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the gist of it. Let's talk about who we liked and didn't like acting wise.
I'll say that I did not like Karen Shipka in the beginning.
Okay, because she plays
I didn't like
teenager.
her until after the time travel.
Okay, that's fair. Because she plays like that typical annoying, bratty teenager who's like, oh, mom, you're so this and that, blah, blah, blah. I get it. I didn't have anybody I didn't like. Everybody pretty much played, like they gave everybody a sheet, like this is the character, and they played that character pretty much to a T.
Yeah.
Some of the characters were like purposely annoying, but that was like their character.
Yeah, it was one of those movies where they orchestrate you not liking some of the characters just because of who they are and their personality, but you don't dislike them because you get the element. Like the characters you don't like in a slasher movie are typically the cops, but you understand that the cops have to be there because they are like a secondary antagonist that make it more difficult for the main character.
Or they're just not doing their job.
Right.
Both.
Or both. In most cases, not likable, not doing their job, and usually dying in the process of the film.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
There weren't any characters I did not like. Characters I really did like. I really did like her best friend.
Same.
Who was played by
both past and present.
Yeah. So she has a best friend, Karen Shipka, who plays Jamie. She has a best friend named Amelia, who is a black actress named Kelsey Mwema.
I think that's right.
I have never seen her anything before, but she was really good in this movie. She is a genius, and she is the one who builds the time machine.
It's so funny because the entrance of the time machine is very random. Because you don't, like, if you didn't read the synopsis of this movie, you would go, are they talking about a time machine?
Yeah.
Because it's current day, they're high schoolers, and there's a science fair in this rinky-dink, old, grummy-looking amusement park, and her best friend's entry into the science fair, it looks like a photo booth. And somebody's like, why do you have a photo booth in the science fair? She's like, whatever. But she's like literally trying to build a time machine. Yeah, and you're like,
photo
what?
booth time machine where you get in it, you take your photo, and it sends you back.
I was like, is nobody kind of like, why is this girl trying to build a time machine? But I think she purposely made it look like a photo booth so people wouldn't be trying to grill her on why she's trying to build a time machine.
Yeah.
Essentially.
I really like Julie Bowen's character, her present day character. I didn't mind her 80s version
I
of
actually
herself,
liked
younger
her
self.
80s version because Olivia Holt, who plays the 80s version of the mom, is so stuck up.
Yeah.
And I don't like her because she's stuck up, but she plays stuck up so well.
She's Regina George.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
got that very airy, like, what do you mean girl?
She's the main mean girl of her group.
She played that mean girl real well. And she's a favorite only because the actress plays that part very well.
And it's funny because Julie Bowen is very much herself from Modern Family.
Yes.
She's the very nice, overprotective mom that can get tough when she needs to.
Right.
And then you go back in time and meet who she was in the 80s, and she's completely awful, unbearable person.
180 opposite
like you wouldn't
person.
imagine that she 35 years later she would be like this very overprotective mom that would annoy the heck out of her kids.
Yeah. She's pretty horrible as a teenager.
Yeah, but I didn't mind her. I didn't mind Olivia Holt, who played her teenage version. I really like Julie Bowen though, because it was very interesting take on what it's like to. I mean, she was
Survive.
the final girl.
Right.
It's one of those movies where she's the final girl, but this movie isn't about her. She's not the final girl of this movie. She just happens to be the final girl. It's kind of like when Buffy the Vampire Slayer has other slayers in it. It's like, oh, okay, you're cool because even though you're not the main character, you are capable of doing things.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, she did basically play Modern Family mom. But man, when they went back, I was like, ooh, my goodness.
So in the 80s, the mom has a friend group because she's the Regina George, so she has to have her band of other mean girls.
And they all dress like Molly Ringwald.
So they're called, it's funny because they're called the Mollies.
Yes.
And it made me think of the Heathers with Winona Ryder, because that was the same time period. And I was like,
I'm sure they borrowed from
why
that.
wouldn't they just call them the Heathers? Because this is the time period.
You got to change it up a little bit.
They're the Heathers, but they're called the Mollies. I liked all of them.
Yeah, all the
because
they were so bad to say how much you like. Not bad, but it's funny to say how much we like them because they literally awful.
They're awful characters, but that's kind of why people like Mean Girls, because even though all of the characters are awful except for Lindsay Lohan, that's what was the best part of the movie. So I liked all of the Mollies.
The friend group was funny.
It was funny because you believed that they were actually friends because the way that they talked to each other.
Yeah.
And like when they were having like conversations about who slept with who or who did this thing with this boy somewhere. It was just out in the open because they're all friends. Yeah, they all know everything about each other. Right. and they know.
Even if it sounds crazy, they
and they all know that they're mean girls.
Yeah.
And they recognize that within each other.
And they play it off each other for sure.
And they're kind of mean to each other as well.
And it just flows.
Which made it even funnier. And it just flows because they're like say rude, catty things to each other. And then they'll just
the next scene they keep it going.
Cool and keep it going. So those are the main characters that I liked. Didn't have anybody that I disliked.
No, everybody played their role pretty good. Some characters are annoying, but like we said, that's how they're supposed to be. And they're not like, oh my God, I wish they took this character out.
Were there any side characters that had a standout performance that surprised you?
I actually like Randall. Randall Park's not in this a ton, but the first scene we see him in, I'm like, he's so like, he plays a cop. And like he is, just how he was interacting with the main character, Jamie, when she first shows up in the scene in the past. And it was like, he's being like difficult because she's talking about she's traveled from the future. And he's just kind of like, girl, go back to school. Right. Like this is, you're being annoying right now. I'm just a cop trying to take a smoke break outside of school and you bother me. Like, please be gone. So he was cool.
Standout character for me was her best friend's mom in the past and in the present.
Yes.
So
I liked her best friend's mom in the past for sure. She was one of my favorite.
Yeah. So her best friend, who is the inventor of the time machine, has a mom who is also a scientist and a genius.
That's how she knows how to build a time machine.
That's how she knows how to build a time machine because her mom is so smart. When Jamie goes back in time to try to stop the Sweet 16 killer, she meets her best friend's mom, who's the same age as her best friend in the current day. So and because they're so like, they become friends. Right. So I really liked those two characters and that dynamic. And I like the fact that even though she didn't have her best friend with her, she still had that best friend
she
character.
still had her. I mean, essentially, she had her mom, so it was almost like she did have her best friend there. So yeah, that was cool.
And it is a time travel movie. So you have those moments where a character who's traveled back in time has to convince other people that they're a time traveler.
Those scenes were good.
And I like the fact that Jamie knew that it was going to be unbelievable to explain.
Yes.
It was going to be unbelievable to convince everybody else around her that she is a time traveler.
Right.
So she just told them she was a psychic because it's the 80s and everybody believed and stuff.
She basically makes it up just to get things moving. She just like, I'm just going to make this up, keep this going, because people are going to start thinking I'm crazy if I keep saying I'm from the future. Yeah,
because she told the first girl she was from the future and she didn't believe her.
Right.
So then after that, she just tells everybody, oh, the reason I know everything is going to happen because I'm psychic.
Right.
And they're like, oh, okay, that's much more believable.
Future.
Yeah. They were like, oh, okay, she's psychic. So that's much more believable.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that was that. And that points to the writing being good. And then her being able to act out that part of like, okay, I'm not stupid enough to where I'm going to just keep telling people I'm from the future. I'm smart enough to make up something to people so I can kind of get these people to safety and figure out this crime. So the writing was good. It was a good length. I will say about an hour
and 45 minutes.
I was like, how are they going to wrap this up? In the
we
time
got down
left?
To the last 20 minutes and I was like, wow, they got a lot to clean up.
They covered it all and tied up all the loose ends. And I was
had enough time to give you a little extra.
Gave us a little extra at the end during the credits. I was like, oh, okay, y'all did this. Because I was like, this is about to feel real rushed. And that's kind of going to ruin the last half of this movie. Yeah. But that was good. So
it opens up like a true crime TV show. We're seeing the 3 victims.
Like Dateline.
Yeah, like Dateline. We're seeing 3 victims who are teenage girls who were victims of the Sweet 16 killer in 1987. Their murders went unsolved. And they've basically turned this town into a Woodsboro. Exactly. If you don't know what Woodsboro is,
a small town.
Yeah, if you don't know what Woodsboro is, Woodsboro is in Scream. It's the small town where the murders take place.
Everybody knows everybody. There's one high school.
And murder never happens, so it's just so crazy. So the town has become a tourist attraction because
of the serial killer.
And the mystery behind it. So we're jumping 35 years into the future. It's present day, 2023. Julie Bowen, who is a mom from Modern Family, is the sole survivor of the slasher attacks. She's the final girl.
Right.
She has her own husband.
Yep, she's married with a kid now.
She's got a kid.
Who's the main character.
Who is Jamie, the main character. And she's the typical teenager, like Cheryl said. She just wants to hang out and leave the house and go to concerts and do stuff with her friends. But her mom, who is still traumatized from having all of her friends brutally murdered when she was her daughter's age, is very protective and is like, I really just want you to stay safe. I don't want you to go anywhere. It also is Halloween night.
Of course.
So there are people who are dressed in costumes going from door to door.
That might have been my first note right there. Now, why are people dressed up in the mask of the same person who killed a serial killer from 30 years ago? Like, why would that not be like a taboo? Like, you're not supposed to do that. He was a killer, y'all. So I think that was my first note of why are they dressed up as the serial killer? This is crazy.
But that's in every movie.
Yes,
in
it is.
Scream, they dress up as Ghostface. And Halloween 2, they're already wearing the other Michael Myers mask.
That's crazy.
They always dress up as the killer. Especially when it's a small town that's only famous for this one thing and it's serial killers.
Let's dress up as the person who massacred people.
Absolutely. So it's Halloween night. People are going door to door in Halloween costumes anyway, but they're also going to door in the killer's mask, which is just a mask of a white guy with blonde hair smiling. He looks like Johnny Bravo.
I was going to say, he looks like he's supposed to be like a punk rocker or something, or maybe a biker. It's not a very scary looking mask at all, period.
And that was my first note, is the mask is not very effective.
I don't know if it's not supposed to be scary or whether they just didn't stick the landing with the scary mask.
Yeah, the mask is very unscary. And
Party City for sure.
Short story, the daughter doesn't take the mother's trauma very seriously. She's like, it happened 35 years ago. All your friends were murdered. You need to get over it.
It was kind of mean.
And that was my other note, was that I'd be more sympathetic to my mom if I knew she was Sidney Prescott. Like if my mom
Right.
was
And
like,
she was
hey,
living in like a constant state of
especially
fear.
and they already say in this world, they reference other slasher movies and horror movies in this movie, which exist in this world. So if you know your mom is the real life main character of a horror movie,
You would be a little nicer to her.
you wouldn't just be like, oh, it happened 35 years ago, get over it.
Yeah.
That your friends were all stabbed to death 16 times. I mean, some of their bodies, one of the girls was found stabbed to death sitting on top of a car.
Yeah, one was in a garage,
like,
one was in a car.
It wasn't like these girls were smothered in their sleep. They were chased down and brutally killed. So,
literally stabbed.
And that's kind of why I didn't like the main character, Jamie. Because I'm like, this is unrealistic. Even like in the real world, outside of this movie, a teenager would be more aware of that.
They really laid on thick of how she's like, I don't care. I want to be free. And Mom needs to get over it.
And especially if you know that not only is it just like this brutal thing that happened, it's unsolved, and your mom is the sole survivor. I would also be paranoid.
And the reason why she basically fight like she know karate is because she don't want it to happen to her.
Yeah.
And she's got, the daughter mentions a sarcastic line about how she had her in self-defense since she was 3 because of this, that, and the third. She's like, because she's trying to keep you from getting killed.
Yeah.
But go out there. Go find.
So she lets the daughter go to her concert with her friends, and while Julie Bowen is home alone giving out candy for trick-or-treaters, the killer comes in and kills her.
Yep. Real good.
Julie
she
Bowen
put up
dies.
a good fight.
Yeah.
And I actually thought that she was going to get away, but I was like, oh no, she's
dead.
Yeah.
So basically the 35 years that she's been living as a survivor, she's been training herself like John Wick, and she puts guns and knives in every corner of the house just in case the killer ever shows up. She turns into City. She's like Scream 3 Sidney Prescott. Yeah.
Who's been through some things.
Who's been through some and knows better and just gives everybody the side eye.
She had things hidden. She had like secret compartments. She put up a good fight.
The killer comes back to her house dressed like the killer, but she thinks it's a trick-or-treater. He's not.
Listen, I wouldn't even open up my door if you had the disrespect to come to my house in a mask that looked like somebody who killed my friends from I don't care how long ago. But whatever.
So she and the killer have a good hand-to-hand fight around the house. And it's a really good fight.
Good stunt coordinating right there.
But he kills her and stabs her to death 16 times in the hallway. And it was the tone changed immediately from comedy, and it went into like Scream. The kills were Scream-esque, where the kills are very serious and not play for laughs. They're almost unsettling. All
of the kills, that's where I guess that's the horror part of this movie is all of the kill. It's not like, you see some off-screen pokes and screaming. No, you see him killing.
They're brutal. They're brutal.
Blood.
Brutal stabbings.
Yes.
Repeated. Yeah. And like people like fighting and begging for their lives.
Right.
And
the screaming and they're trying to crawl away.
And it was very uncomfortable for me watching the mom from Modern Family get killed like that.
Well, I didn't think they was going to kill. I thought she was going to get away, or like her husband was going to show up. But
she was close to getting away.
Once she was dead, I was like, oh, this is okay.
Yeah. So
you're right. It wasn't pretty.
It was my favorite kill of the movie. Because it had the most fight. I mean, I can't think of any other kill in the movie that was as eventful as the first kill.
The very last one was my favorite because it was a surprise. But
we'll get there.
Sure. We'll get there.
They find out that the mom was friends or was in communication with a local podcaster.
So there's a character who does he does a true crime podcast.
Yeah, he does a true crime podcast.
And his podcast seems to specifically only talk about this particular, I don't know, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But his podcast talks about these murders. And now that the mom died, now he's like back in the swing of things.
He also leads tours.
He leads a tour.
So he leads tours for people who come into the town to see
the sites of where all the murders happen. The mom dies. The podcast guy, we find out, was talking to the mom because she was still trying to find out who the killer was. He's got this podcast where he's also trying to like have content. Basically.
Right. The daughter meets up with the podcaster to get all the info that he has. And he tells her, hey, the killer left your mom a note 35 years ago
that said she
promising
was
that he was going to come back and finish it up. So
and she has such a silly reaction. It's like, she never told anybody. Like, girl, did she have to? She was obviously living in fear.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, and she didn't want to. So yeah, the daughter
have y'all
finds out,
live in
the
fear.
whole time I've been dismissing her my whole life.
Hope she felt bad.
She's been paranoid in secret and
For
keeping it to herself because
30-some years.
she didn't tell her husband and she didn't tell her kid that the killer has been planning that she's
Come
been
back.
afraid every day of her life for 35 years for the killer that killed all her friends to come back and kill her.
And left a note. Was gonna say he was
saying
coming
he
back.
was going to come back and kill her.
Right.
So she tells her best friend, and her best friend is like, well, I am building a time machine. And she literally just drops it like that.
That's why it was so like random. I was like, you was just building a time machine. So
she tells her friend like, oh, my mom died and the killer left her a note 35 years ago saying that he was going to come back and clean up. And the best friend was just like, oh,
don't worry about it. We got a time machine for that.
I literally just finished my time machine yesterday.
The timing was very interesting.
The best friend is the one who comes up with the idea and is like, oh yeah, I already set the date for the day of the first murder.
Yeah.
We can just go back in time and stop the
it.
killer. The best friend was like down for it.
She was
from the
ready.
very beginning.
She was prepared to do what needed to be done to keep her mom from getting killed.
So my other note was that I love that a time machine just exists, and they didn't really explain it at all.
Nope.
She didn't go into detail
about
building
the time machine on her spare time for a science fair.
We didn't have to go through the process with her of her building it. The time machine was already set up in place, plugged in, done. Ready to go.
Had Wi-Fi and everything.
So before the killer gets the jump on them and tries to kill the daughter. Before she goes back in time to use the machine.
And I don't think the killer
he knew.
I think he was just trying to kill the daughter.
Yeah. So she ends up going back in time.
Accidentally.
Because the killer stabs the machine and that turns it on and she gets sent back in time.
It was the day of the first murder, which I think is like 3 or 4 days before Halloween. Because her hope is if she stops the first murder, then she'll stop all of them.
Yeah, the goal was to stop the killer.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that none of the murders took place and it would untraumatize her mom, but 2, keep her mom from dying 35 years later.
Right. Yeah. So it picks up pretty quickly from there. She looks like a teenager because she is a teenager. So she like goes to the school, makes up some fake identity. She's like super shocked at all the like differences between now and back in the 80s. So things like, the secretary of the school like don't care that she there. she just hands her a schedule like, here kid, get out my face.
The secretary just like handing out paper schedules.
Right.
Security isn't like really a thing in schools anymore. She makes a comment where she's like, I wonder what it's like to walk through an airport.
Oh yeah, she does. She's like, I wonder what an airport is right now.
Because nobody checks her identity or does a background check on. She just kind of walks into society.
For the best friend's mom because now she's in the past, and the secretary is just like, she in this class, and she's like, you just gonna tell me that? She's like, yeah, I don't care.
There was also a scene where she has to go to gym. She has to go to gym class because she has to act like a student so she can find her mom and her friends who are also students at the time. And my other note was that I realized that I'm too old to realize that teenagers in 2023 don't know what dodgeball is because she was
so confused.
I forgot dodgeball was outlawed.
Oh, was it?
It's not. Yeah, dodgeball is outlawed in schools now. You can't play it because
I can see why you can't, but
I know they have like dodgeball league. It's not like it's not a school sanctioned activity anymore. Like you can do it as like extracurricular, or I know there's adult dodgeball, but they don't do dodgeball in school anymore.
You know what? When she was so confused about the dodgeball, I was like, it's dodgeball. Why would she not know dodgeball? I was like, oh, they probably don't play dodgeball.
So anybody born in the 80s or 90s knows that dodgeball is every gym teacher's favorite excuse to not actually have to do any work. All you have to do is put a bunch of balls on the court,
stand on the sideline,
split the class in half and say, here's a bunch of balls,
let them hammer at each other,
throw them at each other until the period ends.
Right.
They don't do that anymore. So she was very confused. She thought that they were playing like some type of blood sport.
Yeah. I mean, it got pretty crazy, but she was definitely so confused. So all the references of where she was confused about what was happening in the current time, or anytime she busted out something from the future, And somebody from the 80s was like, what is that? So when she pulled out her phone and the best friend's mom was like, this is the time machine, she was like, no, it's a phone. But that's how her friend's mom knew that she was from the future, because she had her cell phone with her. I was like, it's good that she kept something. Of course, how else would you know she's from the future if she didn't have something like that?
So she meets the best friend's mom, who is a teenager at this time. And that's where we get the explanation of, because in every time travel movie, they have to tell you how time travel works. So she asks her, is it like Endgame? Where if I change something here, does it split off and create a multiverse or something? She made a couple
Avengers, because she asked her, did she know about quantum physics or something? She was like, I've seen Infinity War.
She said, I saw Endgame.
And the girl's looking at her like, I don't know what that is. Because there was no Avengers movie back then.
So her best friend's mom explains to her that the way time travel in this movie works is, time is like a constant stream. When she said that, I was like, is it going to be like, it's a constant stream and then it splits off? Because that's exactly how they explain time in Loki. But she said time travel is a constant stream. When you travel in time, you jump out of the timeline. But time keeps going.
Right.
And then it's like getting out of a river, running around, and then jumping back
to the top,
jumping back into the river at a different point. It's like,
and it keeps going.
Time won't change until you actually do something, and then time will change. But you can travel back in time and do nothing and go back, and nothing can be affected.
It was funny because she asked the friend a question. She was like, so if I don't get back in, or if my parents, because she ends up messing up how her parents interact. Right. And she was like, if I mess this up and my parents don't get together, am I going to disappear? And the girl was like, no, you'll just go back home and nobody will know who you are.
Yeah, because when you go back home, you'll just be time traveling again to a different time.
Time still went on. And you still exist now. You'll just go back and time will keep going, and people will be like, I don't know.
And if they live, they'll still exist. But they won't know who you are.
Right. You messed it up. So now you don't exist.
You'll go back as a completely new person. So I really like that time travel concept.
They made it simple. They made the time traveling pretty straightforward and simple.
Because with that, we're getting two planes of action in the movie. We're watching the main character, Jamie, back in time trying to stop the murders. But as she's doing stuff that affects change, we're also seeing her best friend in the future who's trying to fix the time machine and bring her back. They're getting new memories and things in their present day is changing. And pictures of Jamie are showing up in like 80s yearbooks because she's actively doing stuff in the past.
So basically there was one scene where the podcast guy, he's sitting there, he's like, wait a minute, I thought I remember her getting killed here. And they come to find out his memory changed because when Jamie went back and started fiddling with stuff where people died. Like, so I guess the crazy part about the whole movie is that the friends still die.
The friends, she never actually saves the friends.
She doesn't save the friends at all. The only thing the only thing she changes is where they die, but it's changing people's memories in the present time, because the podcast guy was like, I thought she died here, but then he's like, she actually must have died here. So the pictures change, and like you said, Jamie actually shows up in the picture from the past because that's
because in his podcast, he's been doing the podcast forever. So he's like, he comes when she's changing the past. He's listening to his podcast. He's like, my podcast says that she died. She was found in the garage. But now they found her body on a waterbed, which means that she's actively changed. Stuff is changing in the present as she's doing stuff. I think her
best friend in the present is like, oh, she has to be there because now things are changing.
And then they open an old yearbook and they see a picture of her. They're like, oh, she's literally doing stuff.
In her present day clothes.
While we're trying to bring her back, she's doing stuff. In her present day clothes. I also like the fact that she wears an 80s jacket in the present day. And she wore it while she was in the time machine. So she's back in the 80s for a couple days. For at least 3 days, it seems like. And I love the fact that no matter what she wears, when she puts the 80s jacket over, she blends in with everybody else because it's a fringe leather jacket.
It's a white leather fringe jacket, and she looked like she belonged. And her hair also is kind of like, it's not 80s hair, but it's definitely not styled in a particular way.
Yeah, it's like
homegirl blend right in.
She blended right in.
Which helps her plight, because everybody was like, one character was actually like, people didn't start getting murdered until you showed up.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
So at the end, where she fails to save all of friends.
She don't save nobody.
Yeah, she doesn't save
That's
any
the
of the friends.
craziest
They all
part.
just get killed in different ways, and they put up a fight. There's a couple times where they actually work to stop the
In
guy.
the cabin where the second friend gets killed, like everybody was jumping in to try to stop it from happening.
Yeah.
So I mean, it wasn't just some typical, somebody was sleeping, got stabbed. Whatever.
They made dumb decisions in a slasher movie
because they're teenagers.
because they have to. It's part of being a slasher movie,
right?
But they do have moments where it's like, oh, you. Like in Scream 6, when they decide to lock themselves in a theater and take Ghostface on.
Yes.
It's like, oh, you guys are making smart decisions. You're finally understanding that you are all in danger and you're
right. They did do that.
They're no longer splitting up and going in different directions and doing stupid stuff.
It was definitely the slasher. Like at the end, everybody comes to their senses and put their thinking caps on.
It's like, we have to come up with a plan or we're all going to die.
Right.
So in the end, we find out that there are two killers. The Sweet 16 killer was one of their classmates.
Yep.
Who we find out, and this is very funny because in a slasher movie, at the end, you always get the exposition
of how
for why the girls that got brutally murdered actually deserved it because it's their karma.
Yeah.
And they do that just like in Jason when it's like, oh, the little boy drowned. So in actuality, all these counselors deserve to die because they were being negligent. Well, in this movie, they bullied a fat girl in high school, got her drunk, and let her drive home.
Crazy.
And she died.
Crazy.
So they all actually committed manslaughter.
Everybody except her mother.
You find out that all the girls committed manslaughter.
Yeah, involuntarily.
But because they're mean to literally everybody, they could not figure out who it was that they offended.
Yeah.
And the killer was the boyfriend of the fat girl that they got killed.
Yeah.
Who also...
They called her fat something. And it's funny because the main character was like, you shouldn't be calling her that. And we're literally
I forgot what her name was, but it was something basic like Amy or something. Yeah. And they just called her like Fat Amy. I know Fat Amy is from a different movie. Right. But they just called her like Fat Amy.
Pretty much.
And the Sweet 16 killer was her boyfriend who was killing them for revenge for getting his girlfriend killed. Who ends up 35 years later is the principal of the school.
Yeah.
Or we find out, spoiler alert, at the end of this movie,
there's
a second killer that they're not working together. They're two separate killers who are dressed as the same
that's why
killer.
I said my favorite kill was at the end because they kill the guy, the brother or the boyfriend. They trap the killer. They come up with a plan. They trap the killer in this haunted house. They actually knock him out. Kill him.
Yeah.
And then you think
they succeed.
You think, okay, the last friend is gonna make it. Like they've stopped at least one killer. And then somebody comes from behind in the same mask and slit that girl's throat. And I literally was like,
came out of nowhere. It literally shocked me. Like I was watching, like this is how people felt when they were watching Scream 1 for the first time in the movie theater. And they're like, oh my God, there's a second killer. It literally went down the exact same way.
I was so shocked.
Where Sydney turns around and she goes to Stu for help. And Stu's like, oh, I'm actually also a killer. Yeah. It was that moment.
When I tell you I gasped out loud, Bailey might have looked at me like, what's she doing?
Because we come to find out that they did kill the original Sweet 16 killer
who became the principal later. Which is crazy.
Who was their classmate. But the podcaster realized that undoing the murders meant that it would undo his podcast. So he followed her back in time
to go kill,
to make sure that all the girls died.
Yep, because he wanted to be famous like his dad,
who was a famous news broadcaster.
Yeah, he was like a award-winning news broadcaster,
Pulitzer Prize winning.
Yeah, throughout the years, and he was jealous of his dad, and he didn't like the fact that his dad treated him bad. So if they stopped the killers, then he would have never been able to get this podcast and be known for podcasting or whatever.
And the reason they couldn't kill the guy, and the reason it was so hard to fight him off, was because he knew freaking karate.
He did.
That's why he was so good at fighting them all off at once and still being able to pull off the murders because the killer knew karate.
Yeah, he said it because we don't know.
He practiced at a dojo or something.
We didn't know it at that moment, but he's also like a hall monitor or something.
Yeah, there's a bunch of other red herrings.
They definitely do the red herring thing. He catches them outside and he's like, "Oh, what are you guys doing? You're not supposed to be outside or whatever." And they're like, "Oh, it's not safe to be out here." And he's like, "Oh, don't worry, I know karate." And didn't think nothing of it.
I'm so used to watching Scream that I go into slashers looking for, like, I'm instantly sussing everybody out.
Yeah.
And this movie gave zero clues who the killer was.
It did not give any clues, which is probably why I was just
so shocked.
I was just enjoying it. I was like, wait a minute, we do got to find out who's actually killing these girls.
Yeah.
But when they took the boy's mask off, I was like, that's who it was? But when they explained it, I was like, ooh, they kind of deserved it, maybe?
Yeah, when they explained, oh yeah, we committed vehicular manslaughter, I was like, oh, this is just like Friday the 13th. They find out that the little boy died. It's just like Nightmare on Elm Street, where it's like, oh, the parents burned Freddy Krueger alive, and that's why it's our revenge.
And the main character, Jamie, like, she's legitimately, like, she's upset. She's like, y'all did what? Y'all let her drive home, like, got her drunk, and then let her drive home drunk. But we find out that her mom wasn't there.
She wasn't at the party.
Her and the girl her and one of the friends ended up having a falling out. So at that time, she wasn't even involved in any of that, which is why she didn't get killed with the 3.
Yeah, so we find out
because she wasn't even involved.
The note was fake. The podcaster made the note to convince the daughter to go back in time.
Yeah.
To try to save her mom. The mom was never a target.
And what?
Yeah. The mom was never a target because she wasn't involved. So the mom was never going to die until the podcaster killed her in the future or in present day.
Who killed the mom though, for real? Was it the podcaster or was it the principal?
I think it was the podcaster because the principal got his revenge.
You're right.
His revenge was to kill the life. He was never going to kill she was the 4th Heather.
Oh, you know what? You're right, because he said if she solved everything. He went back because if she solved everything, he wouldn't have his podcast. But he killed the mom because it had been 35 years and he needed something else to keep the podcast going. Mm-hmm. So he was like, what is the perfect story? Then the killer coming back 30 years later and starting up again. So you're right. It was the podcast guy.
And the mom was paranoid because she was a sole survivor of her group, but she never saw the note. Because he made the note up. So she was just regular paranoid. She wasn't paranoid thinking that somebody was going to get her at any moment every day. She was just regular paranoid, like, I'm a survivor, so I just need to make sure I'm ready.
He knew about the time machine because there was some incident or altercation or something that happened where it was mentioned and everybody was just looking at it like, oh, the best friend mentioned. She's like, oh, there's a time machine or whatever. Yeah. She's got stuck in the time machine and they were just looking at her like, yeah, girl, that's crazy. But he was like, I've got some questions for you.
Yeah, he was very interested in it.
That's when he knew that he could go back.
So they kill the original Sweet 16 killer. Yep. Podcaster reveals himself to be a surprise second killer that was actually never supposed to be there anyway. She kills the podcaster because her mom taught her martial arts and self-defense as well. Yep. So she fought him off and killed him.
She makes it back home due to the best friend's mom's time machine. She makes it back home via her friend's time machine. And
now that both killers are dead, there is nobody in the present day to kill her mom. So her mom lives.
Her mom, and you know what? I thought they were going to throw us for a loop when she comes home and she's like screaming for her mom, like, mom. I was like, what if it didn't work?
She has the same life, except the fact that because she changed because she affected how her mom and dad met and they ended up meeting
way earlier than they were supposed to.
She goes back to the present where she's still 16 years old and finds out because they got together much earlier. She has a 35-year-old brother who just appeared out of nowhere.
Whose name is Jamie.
Because he was technically now the firstborn. They gave him the name Jamie. And her name is now Colette. And she has to live the rest of her life as a Colette. And I loved that.
Everything's looking good. Everything's looking peaceful. The mom's friend, the best friend's mom, like, she knows what happened because
she's dressing up for Halloween because mom didn't celebrate Halloween.
Yep.
And the mom's like living a better, happier life.
Right. So the best friend's mom, like, she knows the deal because she was there and she's kind of like, girl, you got so much to catch up on since everything has changed. And then this guy comes out and he's like an older looking guy. And somebody calls him Jamie. And she's like, wait a second. I'm Jamie. She's like, no, girl, that ain't.
Yeah. She's like, you have a 35-year-old brother now because you affected how your mom and dad met. And now you're Colette.
Very well written.
Because I was like, is this the best friend's mom's boyfriend?
Because he's really young. I was like, did her best friend's mom hook up with a young guy from the past and maybe the best friend don't exist no more? No, it was her brother.
She just now has a brother.
A much older brother.
And a new name.
And a new name.
But I like the fact that the best friend's mom still made sure that her daughter grew up to be her best friend.
Yep. So her best friend was still her best friend.
And the mom
when
wrote
they
her
grew
a
up.
journal
Which was also one of my favorite parts of the
that
movie.
said, which was part of the end credits. She made her a journal out of a composition notebook, and that was titled "Everything That's Changed." So she could read all the things that were different now that she was back in the present.
Right.
So she would know.
That was pretty
she
cool
was
because
already
it
caught
basically
up.
gave you like a synopsis of, you know how it happened as the movie played it, but this is what happened now that she went back in time and changed things. So that was a cool little ending. I like that.
And I also like the fact that Doug, who was the podcaster, still existed in the present.
He did,
but he had a different ending as
because
well.
because the time still flowed. So they changed it to where his past, he still was a kid in the past, and he still grew up. But he didn't have his dad because his dad ended up getting killed.
He went back to kill his dad because he was always jealous of his dad's success.
Right.
So while he went back in time to make sure the murders happened, he also took a side quest to kill his dad,
which was crazy,
on live television.
Yeah, right through the ears.
Yeah, stabbed him to death on live television.
Yeah.
So when she gets back to the present, the podcaster never became a podcaster because he saw his dad murdered on live television. So he just went to India and lived in a monastery for the rest of his life.
Yeah, it was very
It was kind of sad.
I mean, he kind of deserved
because
it.
he technically didn't do that. Doug didn't do anything.
You're right.
It's kind of like killing baby Thanos. It's like technically he hasn't done anything yet. So you feel bad for
yeah.
So
that was, I think the kicker for me, not only her coming back and having a brother and having a different name, was the fact that the main quest was achieved of her mom not dying. But
she didn't achieve anything
friends,
else. I thought she would at least save one.
Gone.
Yeah, and I thought she would at least save one.
No, I did too until the one came by and slashed the other girl.
Especially because I like them all.
They were very fun characters,
but if they did not die, I guess it's a slasher, so you have to have kills. Yeah, and if they didn't die, nobody would have died.
And it would have been I think that would have changed things too much. Like, how do you explain 3 people who didn't exist that exist now?
I would have liked it if at least one person who didn't originally died.
Okay.
Like maybe the young sheriff. Okay. Or the gym teacher.
The gym teacher definitely could have.
Because basically it seems like everybody who went to this high school grew up and worked at the high school as an adult.
Pretty much.
So
it was basically a high school to parent to high school pipeline.
I didn't want I didn't want the best friend's mom to die. No. I didn't want her younger version of her mom or her dad to die. No. But I thought it would be interesting if somebody who didn't die died. I was like, maybe that would have changed it. But
because they would have existed. Well, it would have been a thing where they existed in the present, but nobody would have known who they were.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that in the present, the mom, even though the podcaster didn't become a killer, the mom says she keeps tabs on him just in case he might that crazy gene might tick off. He might actually become a killer. Right.
So, yeah. But it was good. That last third really turned it up, and how they ended it was perfect.
Yeah,
it was perfect.
It was great. So I really liked the movie. I'd give it an 8 out of 10.
Agree.
Yeah.
I would maybe do an 8.5.
Just because some of the acting was kind of low budget, but I mean they worked within the confines of the budget. Right. I think they did a really good job. If it wasn't big for the actors, this is definitely big for the director to do this on a bigger budget and being just as successful.
To be a slasher movie, a 87 and a 78 for critics and audience scores is pretty darn good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So definitely good for the director, the writers. Also.
I mean, very interested in what a cinema score would have been.
Y'all know I don't like horror movies. I was very easily able to watch this.
Yeah, there were no scares.
And go to sleep with no problem.
But the kills were brutal. There are some scenes of It
got a little gore.
There are scenes of teenage girls being stabbed to death.
Multiple.
And there's no guts or anything.
But this noise.
Yeah, there's not screaming, guts or limbs or anything.
Howling,
but it's
fighting for your life.
The kills were serious. The kills were not part of the joke at all.
They were not parody kills. Yeah. And they were definitely not happening off screen. Yeah. So if you don't like people getting stabbed to death, then this is who I would not recommend this for. People who are squeamish. I wouldn't recommend that. But if you like a slasher film that's not super scary, this is right up your alley.
Yeah.
It's rated R.
Yeah, it's a very adult movie.
It's definitely it should be rated R.
It's an
for
adult
sure.
movie about teens. My favorite scene
Mhm.
is the mom fight scene. The
Oh,
very
really?
first
That's
kill.
your favorite?
Yeah.
That's your
Because I
favorite
was
scene?
taken by surprise that she was so ready
Mhm.
to fight the killer should he return.
Oh, I know what my favorite scene is. My favorite scene is when she went to the party, the birthday party, the first night that she got there. She was trying to stop the first kill,
Mhm.
and she finds out who her dad was.
Oh, yes.
Because her dad in the present day he's the typical dad, and his shirt that he has on for Halloween is like a muscle shirt, like it's
He's like an out of shape middle-aged white guy.
right. And
Yeah.
the shirt he has on, he was like, she's like, Dad, what kind of shirt is that? Because it's a shirt that shows muscles, like a bare-chested man with muscles.
Mhm.
He's like, I used to be Zac Efron back in my day, and everybody's like, okay, whatever. But when they show his dad back in the day, he is like this rocker heartthrob with
Mhm.
long hair, and everybody loves him and everybody wants to be with him. And she finds out because she sees her dad getting out of a pool, and she's like, oh my God, who is that? And her best friend's mom says who it is. She's like, ew, that's my dad. And
I
she's
love
like, that's your dad?
I love the fact that she does it again when she returns to the present, when she meets her brother for the first time.
Yes.
And she's attracted to her brother until she's like, that's your older brother now. And she's like, why do I keep doing that?
Yeah, so that was my favorite scene, because the look on her face of like, oh, he's cute, and then the disgust like 5 seconds later was hilarious. Another character we did mention was there's one teenager he's in like a band or something.
Yes, Eddie.
And he's originally thought to be the killer by the police, and because she changes things with time, he does grow up to be in a band, but instead of being like in a rock heavy metal band, he's in like some cool, calm, collective late night storm type of band. So he like totally changes his whole outlook because of what he goes through as she changes stuff. I was like, oh, that is the same guy. He's so mellow now.
There's a running joke throughout the movie about how Julie Bowen, the mom in the present, doesn't talk to her mom.
Mm-hmm.
And when she goes back to the 80s, we find out that her mom is exactly like her.
Yep.
In the future, where she's just very nice and overbearing and overprotected
cool
and sweet. And her daughter's a mean girl, and she acts exactly like Jamie does.
Yep.
So when Jamie is trying to connect with her younger mom, the younger version of her mom, and tell her like, you shouldn't be mean to your mom because one day she's trying not to give away the fact that I'm your daughter and you're dead and that's why I'm here. She's like, one day, you'll never know when you really need her. And she stops her. She's like, hey, I'm telling you this as a friend. Nobody wants to hear you cry about your mom.
So mean.
And I love that.
So look, she was consistent the whole movie, and I loved it.
Yeah. Oh, and when she finally convinces the younger version of her mom that she's a psychic, because she doesn't tell her she's from the future. And her mom, she finds out that her mom is a super mean girl, preppy mean girl, secretly loves sci-fi movies.
Oh, I love that scene too.
They're watching RoboCop, the scene in RoboCop with the Ed 209. That's the machine gun robot, kills the board member on accident. And she's asking Jamie like, do the machines rise up and kill us in the future? She was like, no, the machines don't kill us. We all get taken over by dance videos on TikTok. And her mom was like, they use dance against us in the future.
And I love how her best friend was like, I can't believe the most popular mean girl in school like sci-fi. And she's like, you tell anybody, I'll kill you.
I'll kill you. Yeah. So I did like those scenes. Who would you recommend this movie to? Adults. You have a low tolerance for horror. This is good for you.
There you go. Low tolerance for horror.
There's it's funny because I think slasher is a genre, but I don't think it's like on paper a genre. It's like subgenre of horror. This is a slasher without the horror in it.
Yes.
Because there's no scary moment.
I almost thought like, does this qualify as a horror movie? Because I ain't the least bit scared right now.
Yeah, because because like in Scream, Ghostface is good. Ghostface is a regular person who doesn't know karate, so they have to always use the element of surprise, so they're constantly jumping out of somewhere, jumping around a corner, and these kills were kind of all telegraphed. Like you knew where he was.
They show like a door that's cracked and you're like, oh, is he there? No, he just slowly opens up the door. Like, hey, he doesn't really run unless he's trying to, like, when he shows up, he just show up like, hey, I'm here. I'm ready to kill.
Yeah.
He don't like jump out of nowhere. There's no boo or ha or nothing.
Yeah.
He not hiding under no bed.
Right. All of his moments, you saw them coming.
Yes.
I think there was like maybe one moment. Well, no, not really, because there was one moment where you think he popped up behind her right before she jumps in the time machine. But
yeah.
you kind of see him walking in the background
Yeah.
for a little bit before he actually comes up to him. So it's like, no, you actually see him.
And like I said, the mask is not looks straight from Party
and it looks like
City.
Johnny Bravo. Yeah, it looks like a cheap.
Like somebody would wear that, like a kid would wear.
Like
it
had hair, but the hair didn't move because it was all plastic and rubber. He wore just like a t-shirt that looked like it came from Hot Topic and a bomber jacket.
He has a creepy smile. It's real generic.
Yeah, it doesn't have a.
I wonder if they did that on purpose to like make people to have more wider appeal.
Because it also didn't look very 80s. Like his mask, I was like, I don't see how this would be connected to the 80s at all.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Everybody else looked more 80s than he did.
Yeah, he was wearing like a bomber jacket and like a graphic tee and jeans.
Like the most 80s thing might have been his hair.
Yeah.
Because it was like yellow.
So if you like slashers, this is for you. If you're an adult, this is for you. If you have a low tolerance for horror, this is for you. Mm-hmm. It also has a lot of comedy and some recognizable faces. Yeah. So I think you would really enjoy it.
Check it out. It's on streaming, so you don't even have to leave your house. And it's still spooky season.
This would have done well in the theaters.
I think it would have done well.
I think word of mouth. I think positive word of mouth would have done really well for it. The runtime.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't have a lot of like big screen actors, but I think it would have definitely made his money back.
I think because it doesn't have a lot of big screen actors, it's probably why they didn't put it in the theater. Also, there's been a lot of horror and horror related movies that have been out
at the same time.
I wonder if people would have just been like, I've seen enough.
So it probably benefited from the fact that, because I think there are 4 horror movies out right now.
Probably, I believe you.
There's The Nun, there's The Exorcist, there's Saw.
The Dracula on the Boat.
That already came out. I mean, in theaters right now, currently playing. There's like 4 horror movies in theaters right now currently playing. And I don't think any of them are doing well because nobody has time to go see all 4.
That and the fact that I don't know if all of them are being reviewed very well either.
I think the only 2 are The Nun and Saw.
And Five Nights at Freddy's.
Five Nights at Freddy's, yeah.
Yep.
So they're all eating each other at the theater.
Pretty much.
This movie probably benefited from the fact that it's on Prime with no extra cost.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it doesn't have to share the spotlight with anybody.
Right. And it probably has good word of mouth.
Yeah. So definitely stream it. I absolutely recommend it. What are we doing next week?
Woo! We're about to be in the theater for 4 hours.
Yes,
we are. We can watch Killers of the Flower Moon. It's coming out this weekend, but I threw off our schedule. I apologize in advance.
You're fine.
But we'll be. You know what? But it'll give people time to watch this 3.5-hour movie.
Yes.
Before they listen to our episode.
Yes.
So Killers of the Flower Moon is next for us. It is the latest from Martin Scorsese.
And Leo.
And Leonardo DiCaprio. Robert De Niro's in it.
Already won't be their last because they're already planning the next movie together.
I don't know if I want to know that beforehand. Just let me find out after I've seen your latest movie.
Yeah.
But it's getting good reviews from like critics and stuff. We'll see.
Yeah. I'm going into it with the Oppenheimer hope of it's going to be...
I hope it's
a little more documentary.
Yeah.
Because the movie is a drama, but the B plot of it is this is supposed to be how the FBI came to be. So I want to see more of that. I want to see more of the documentary part of it.
I just hope it doesn't feel 3.5 hours.
It's going to feel like 3.5 hours because there's no action in it.
But Oppenheimer didn't feel like 3 hours. The extra half hour probably going to make a difference though. And we already going to be there for probably 20 minutes of previews. Woo. Yeah, we're going to have to do this.
Well, it should feel better than Oppenheimer because we'll be in a good theater, not an IMAX theater.
You're right.
If you listen to this podcast, we hate IMAX theater seats.
At Easton
here
specifically.
In this city where we record. We don't know what the quality of IMAX is everywhere else.
Hopefully they better where you at. But yeah, we'll have to see this. Either we're going to have to do this real early on Saturday or after work on a Friday. We have to figure it out. But yes, next episode, Killers of the Flower Moon. We'll let you know how we feel about it. If you've seen it or if you're going to go see it this weekend, definitely let us know. Anything else?
No, that's all I got. For anybody that is picking up Spider-Man 2 tomorrow, because we are recording
Ayy.
on Thursday, October 19th, before it comes out on the 20th.
It's coming at midnight, right? You can just download it.
Yeah, I think if you got the digital version,
Gotcha.
you can download it directly.
Okay.
Have
It's
fun.
funny. Does GameStop do like midnight releases still?
Yeah, they still do.
Okay.
Mhm, yeah.
Cool.
But don't support GameStop.
Oh,
GameStop is bad.
we'll edit this out. No, I'm just playing.
But I hope if you're getting Spider-Man 2, you enjoy it. I will not be joining you at the beginning, but
we need to finish Final Fantasy.
when I finish some games in my catalog, I
You
will
need
allow
to finish
myself to buy
Hogwarts Legacy.
another game.
I mean, and I need to start the Final Fantasy that I bought when it was on sale.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's all I got.
All right. So thanks for listening. Please leave us a review either on your podcast app that you're listening, or you can go to our website, vaguelynerdypodcast.com. You can leave a review there. You can also send us a message, whether it be a question, whether it be a comment, whether it be a recommendation, or you can leave us a voicemail. And if it sounds great, we'll play it on our show.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening. Until next week.
See ya.
Bye.